PSP.
Minus 15.
Profi ignition.
10, 9,
9,
Disser start.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff of the mighty Delta IV Heavy rocket with NASA's Parker Solar Probe, a daring mission to shed light on the mysteries of our closest star, the Sun.
3R68s look good in the full thrust mode. "25 seconds into flight. Chamber pressures continue to look good on all three boosters. Now 35 seconds in. Chamber pressure on the core booster is throttling down to the partial thrust mode. Response looks good. Now 50 seconds into flight. Strap-on boosters look good in the full thrust mode. Core booster looks good in the partial thrust mode. Now 1 minute into flight. Vehicle trajectory looking good right down the middle of the range track. 1 minute, 10 seconds into flight. Coming up on 1 minute, 19 seconds into flight, max Q, maximum dynamic pressure, and Mach 1, Delta IV is now supersonic. One minute, 30 seconds into flight. Port and starboard booster engines continue to look good in the full thrust mode. Core booster looks good in the partial thrust mode. 1 minute, 45 seconds into flight. Trajectory continuing to look good right down the middle of the range track. ACS press valve has been opened. ACS pressure response looks good. 2 minutes, 10 seconds in. Strap-on boosters continue to look good in the full thrust mode. Core booster looks good in the partial thrust mode. And Delta IV has gone to closed loop guidance. Two minutes, 30 seconds into flight. And at 2 minutes, 39 seconds into flight, the Delta IV rocket now weighs just 1/2 of what it did at launch, burning propellant at a rate of almost 5,000 pounds per second. And launch vehicle is now 33 miles in altitude, 49 miles downrange distance, traveling at 4,500 miles per hour. 3 minutes into flight. RS-68A engines in the port and starboard boosters continue to look good in the thrust mode. Core booster looks good in the partial thrust mode. 3 minutes, 15 seconds into flight. Trajectory continuing to look good down the middle of the range track. Approximately 2 minutes remaining in the boost phase of flight. Chamber pressures continuing to look good on all three boosters. Port and starboard booster in the full thrust mode. Core booster continuing in the partial thrust mode. And standing by for a strap-on booster throttle down momentarily. Port and starboard boosters have begun to throttle down. And we have jettison of both strap-on boosters. Core booster is throttled back up to full thrust. Response looks good. Four minutes, 25 seconds into flight. Upper stage lock system has begun boost phase chill down sequence. And 1 minute remaining in boost phase of flight. And upper stage fuel system has begun boost phase chill down. Five minutes into flight, just over 30 seconds now remaining in first stage phase of flight. Core booster engine continues to look good in the full thrust mode. Vehicle trajectory continuing down the middle of the range track. 5 minutes, 20 seconds into flight. And standing by for core booster throttle down momentarily. Core booster has begun to throttle down. Standing by for BECO. And we have BECO booster engine cutoff, standing by for stage sep. And we have good indication of stage separation. NED is deploying. We have pre-start on the RL-10. And we have ignition on the RL-10 engine. Engine chamber pressure looks good. And we have good indication of payload fairing jettison. Now 6 minutes, 20 seconds into flight. And with the boost phase of flight complete, Parker Solar Probe will now continue its journey to the Sun. And it's 6 minutes, 50 seconds into flight. RL-10 chamber pressure looks good. Seeing good responses on the upper stage RCS system. And after a brief review of booster performance, seeing very close to nominal performance on the booster. And this first burn of the second stage will last approximately 4 minutes, 42 seconds. Now 7 minutes, 30 seconds into flight. About 3 minutes remaining in the first burn. And at 8 minutes, 30 seconds into flight, RL-10 chamber pressure continues to look good. Seeing very stable values on the upper stage LOX and LH2 tanks. ACS storage bottle pressure looks good. And vehicle body rates are very smooth. Now 9 minutes into flight. And at 9 minutes 40 seconds into flight, just under 1 minute remaining now in the first burn of the second stage. Second stage continuing to perform nominally. Carlton engine performing well. Tank pressures look good. Vehicle body rates remain smooth. 10 minutes into flight. And about 30 seconds remaining in the first burn. And standing by for MECO 1 momentarily. And we have MECO. Body rate smoothing out nicely. And now seeing upper stage ACS firings as expected. Now 11 minutes into flight. And this will be approximately a 13-minute coast duration prior to MES 2.
From the Mission Director Center, I'm joined once again by Alyssa Macbeth of United Launch Alliance. For those of you that are watching, we had an on-time liftoff today of the Delta IV Heavy rocket. And Alyssa, can you tell me how the launch went?
Oh my goodness, that was a beautiful launch. Just the sound and everything. Oh, it was great. It's looking good so far too. We saw good separation of the boosters from the main core and the booster from the second stage. Just experienced MECO 1. There's going to be 2 burns of the second stage, so that's coming up. The second burn, second engine start. And then in just approximately 45 minutes, we'll see payload separation. So everything's looking good so far.
Great. And can you tell me a little bit about your experience working with ULA and what it's like to work in a mission like this again?
Yeah. So I get to work with the innards of the rocket, the electronics, the avionics boxes, ordnance, pyrotechnics, all that kind of stuff. So working on a mission like this is something really special. To be able to get your hands on a vehicle like this and do something that's going to affect the world is really, really amazing.
Well, thank you very much again for being with us, and I think we'll talk to you a little bit later in the broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Sounds good. Thanks.
And at 13 minutes into flight, Delta IV upper stage is continuing the coast period prior to MES 2. Vehicle systems all performing nominally during this coast, seeing periodic thruster firings as expected. Tank pressures and body rates remain stable. And a brief review of the performance from the first burn, seeing fairly close correlation on major orbital elements. Performance appears to be pretty good.
From the Mission Director Center, once again we had an on-time liftoff of the Delta